All right, we're about to get started. Just want to give the same directive to please be respectful of our witnesses. Understand that they're here under difficult circumstances and they deserve our respect. I would appreciate that from everybody in the room, including our audience. Would also appreciate that if you want to leave, we are going to take a break in an hour and a half. So by my clock, that is 2:40 p.m. we will take a break. It's really distracting when people are walking around or talking, and this board needs to really be able to focus on the witness. The witness really needs to be able to pay attention. I'm going to ask all the witnesses, if you may, sir, to speak up if you can. Ask counsel to continue to speak up because there have been some people who've requested that. So with that, let's proceed. You want to just call this witness and then we'll swear him in?
On behalf of the manager, we call Mark Donka.
Okay. Mr. Donka, may I trouble you to raise your right hand, please? Do you solemnly swear that the testimony in this matter you are about to give will be the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth?
I do.
Thank you. Counsel?
Good afternoon, sir. Would you tell us again who you are, please?
Yep, my name is Mark Donka.
And are you an employee of the Woodstock Police Department?
I am a part-time employee, yes.
Okay. And how long have you been a part-time employee?
I retired 3 years ago from full-time, so about 3 years.
Okay. And could you keep your voice up? I'm having
I'm
trouble
sorry.
hearing you. Thank you.
Yep.
And prior to going part-time, what was your role there at Woodstock?
I was a full-time employee there for 10 years. Prior to that, I was in Hartford, Vermont for 19 years as a sergeant. All told, I've got 44 years of law enforcement experience.
All right, thank you. And I see your vest says chaplain. Is that another position you hold?
Yes, I've been an ordained chaplain for about 8 years.
Thank you. Now, you are here today, am I correct, at the request of the municipal manager, Mr. Duffy?
Yes.
Okay. And talk to us about, understanding you're a part-time officer now for Woodstock, what does your typical frequency of working at the department entail?
I work Mondays. I have 6-day weekends.
Okay. And do you also fill in sometimes when?
Yes, if I'm called, I will fill in. I've been asked in the past to do like a background investigation for dispatchers or things like that, and I would do that.
Okay. And also, just in terms of your background, do you have academy credentials?
Yes, I've graduated from the Vermont Police Academy, the New Hampshire Police Academy, and I graduated from the FBI National Academy in Quantico, Virginia. It's 11 weeks of executive training, they call it.
Okay. And despite your being a quote-unquote part-time employee of Woodstock, when you are working, you are a full-fledged police officer?
I'm dressed just like this, in uniform.
Okay, okay. Now, and am I correct also that your time at Woodstock PD has covered multiple chiefs?
Yes.
Yeah, you worked under Chief Blish?
Chief Blish and Chief Swanson, yes.
Okay.
I've actually worked under 10 different police chiefs in my career.
Okay, okay, thank you. So one of the things I want to ask you about, Officer Donka, is do you have experience in terms of seeing to what extent Chief Swanson is present around the department when he is on?
Sure. I mean, there's numerous times that I've worked in the past, like I said, working Mondays. I'll be on the road, I'll go downtown, I'll do foot patrol, I'll patrol. And once in a while, I'll stop back in the station and I'll ask usually dispatcher or the admin secretary and say, where's Joe, where's Chief Swanson? And the answer I get a lot of times is, we don't know. He went out, he didn't tell anybody where he was going.
And what do you personally see? Are there times you're looking for him, you don't know where he is?
Yeah, well, I don't know how to get hold of him at the time. So, unfortunately, when I'm on, that would be my backup. So it's important to me to know where they are.
I mean, possibly you could call him, but what you're talking about is something a little different than that.
I mean, yeah, we could call on the radio if we could get hold of him. There's been times I know where I've asked dispatch if you try to get hold of him, they said yes, and he didn't answer.
Based on your experience of having worked under other chiefs, what do you make of all this?
To me, I mean, there was just, it seemed unprofessional. The way he would show up at work in the mornings and different things. Like I said, working under different chiefs and stuff, you know, I still believe there's a certain amount of professionalism. You know, I still enjoy putting my uniform on every day when I come to work. If I didn't, I'd be totally retired. But there's many times that, you know, he would show up. In the morning, I'd come in at 6 o'clock, because my shift would be 6 to 2. He'd show up at 9, which is fine. He's the chief. He can come in when he wants. But there'd be times where he wouldn't be in uniform. He'd have uniform pants on, a T-shirt, sneakers, and wouldn't be, to me, dressed professionally to deal with the public.
And him coming in, you know, some days at different times, in different states of uniform, dress or not, how does that compare to your experience when Chief Bush was the chief of the department?
Oh, Chief Bush, when Robbie was there, I've known him for many years. I mean, he would show up in uniform. He would be dressed. He would have his, you know, uniform on, his gun belt on. He'd be ready to go to work.
Okay. And you mentioned the word professionalism or something like that.
Right.
And I guess what sort of impression, if any, if you can speak to this, does what you're describing about Chief Swanson's presence, Chief Swanson's dress, what is your view of what that does for department morale?
I just don't think it's a very good image that we're, you know, putting out there. I know we talked about the one incident was probably a couple months, 3-4 months ago, 5 months ago. I was on duty. He came in, like I said, he was in uniform pants, a kind of stretched out T-shirt, sneakers. Somebody came in the lobby, wanted to talk to an officer. I was dressed in full uniform. I was like, I'll do it, you know, go out. And he's like, no, I got it, which was nice of him. But then he walked out there dressed like that. And to me, it's just, I don't believe in projecting that image. I think that, you know, as a police officer, I'm proud to be a police officer, and I think we should project an image of professionalism, and I don't think that's professional.
Okay. Now, was there an occasion when you learned that a more junior officer than yourself had moved to Vermont and did not yet have a Vermont driver's license?
Yes.
Okay. And the question is, did you talk to Chief Swanson about concern around this subject?
Yes, it was.
Objection. This is one of those things that I thought was also not part of the allegations anymore about Chief Swanson, because there was no merit to it.
Attorney Klosh?
Well, I think the proffer here is that it's not necessarily that there's something, you know, some finding was made that having an employee with a invalid driver's license was some kind of misconduct, but rather, I believe what the proffer is that it has to do with the way Chief Swanson responded to Officer Donka approaching him and saying, this is a problem I think you need to address.
But it wasn't a problem because, first of all, he didn't have an invalid license. He was licensed, just not in another state. And no one has ever indicated that that was at all improper, and it had been removed from the Loudermill allegations.
On the limited basis that council proposes it for, I will allow it.
Okay. Okay. All right. So let's proceed with this, understanding that I'm not asking you whether chief did or didn't do something wrong by not insisting that the person get a Vermont license. What I want to ask you about is, how did he respond when you presented the situation to him?
He basically just said, well, I'll talk to him. But nothing ever came of it. He still didn't have a valid Vermont license.
And just so we understand the context, what is the rule under the statute?
Well, the statute is after 6 months of residency or taking up residency, you have to get a Vermont license. He was still operating under a Massachusetts license, which basically is invalid at that time.
Is it 6 months or 60 days?
I'm not sure exactly.
I'm going to object. If he's not saying that this has to any misconduct, why are we discussing these alleged rules?
We'll only allow it to the extent that we're inquiring as to the chief's conduct. So I am kind of lost as to why we're going down this road now.
Understood. And again, we're not claiming it's some kind of, the issue itself wasn't some kind of misconduct. Again, it's solely for the point of the officer raising the concern, and how did the chief respond to it? That's all.
As to the chief's response, I will allow it.
All right. And what kind of impression did that leave on you, Officer Donka, in terms of Joe Swanson's, kind of role as chief of the department?
As I mentioned, I said, there was I think a big liability for the town, is what I was looking at. And like I said, as somebody that's been a supervisor for 22, 23 years, in a command situation as a sergeant in a bigger department and whatnot, when people were there.
Objection. This is exactly what we were talking about, that his response was one thing, but Officer Donka's opinions about the illegality, when it's already been determined that there was no finding that there was any misconduct or anything wrong, is just really going far beyond.
Yeah, I do agree with that. We are now getting to the point where it's outside of the chief's response to it.
Okay. Thank you, Officer Donka, for the information. Another question I have for you is, have you considered your position at the department and what you might do in the event Chief Swanson were restored to duty as chief?
I'll resign.
Why is that?
I just do not respect him enough to work under him. I just don't believe I could work under that. Like I said, I believe in professionalism. I believe in, a certain way of operating as a police department. I've got a lot of years of experience at it, and I've never worked for a department that had this lax or no amount of real leadership.
Are there other areas of lack of leadership, as you say, that you've observed other than what we've talked about? Are there other instances that you cite for that issue?
Pretty much just, like I said, him not being there, not being available. There was one incident that really bothered me involving the sergeant.
Well, Officer Donka, if you're talking about Chief Swanson when he was sergeant, we're actually not including any of...
Chief Swanson was chief at this time.
Okay, continue. I apologize.
Okay. The Sergeant O'Keefe came in, and I guess his son has a hearing issue, has to get
Okay,
treated.
so I apologize. I'm okay with you in talking about this. I would like to ask you let's not talk about any employees' family members in terms of specifics. I think if you just want to say a family member had an appointment with a specialist, if that's sufficient for your purposes.
That's what it was. He had an appointment for a specialist to get into Dartmouth. He came in, I guess, told Joe that I've got to bring my son to the doctor on this day, and told him which day it was or whatever, and Joe's, I guess, looked at him and said, well, you're going to have to get coverage. He goes, because I have an appointment to get my hair cut at that time, so I won't be able to cover for you. So he called me, and I was on day off, but I came in and covered for him.
Was it something like a one-day notice or something, or?
I think it was 2 days or so notice, 2 or 3. I mean, anybody who lives in the area, they know how hard it is to get into Dartmouth. And if you get an appointment, you don't pass it up.
All right. I don't think I have any other questions for you. Thank you, Officer Donka. Attorney Fraz will have some questions for you, probably.
Officer Donka, sorry to bring this up, but you were in fact investigated for reports of homophobic statements against Chief Swanson, weren't you?
Not on Chief Swanson, no, and I was exonerated.
You were investigated
I
for,
was exonerated.
Chief Swanson was not the one who made allegations against you, correct?
I guess I'm going to object to this line of questioning. I understand the potential for impeaching a witness, but this to me seems, we're talking about something, that's prior
And actually,
acts.
this was before
Well,
he was
hold on,
chief.
we're going to,
Hold up, please.
yeah, we're talking about prior acts which are not grounds for impeachment, so I don't think this is a proper line of questioning.
We're talking about bias. Bias, somebody who's made homophobic statements and against a gay chief, that's bias.
Well, we did
And
hear
you
the
said hearsay was also admissible.
We did hear the testimonies. It's not a hearsay question. We did hear the statement so far that it wasn't concerning Chief Swanson, to whatever statement is being discussed. I just think this is an inappropriate line of questioning.
Just to be clear, the question is as to Mr. Donka's statement about another person, not the chief?
It's about both.
Also about the chief?
Mm-hmm.
Okay, I will allow it.
Okay, so, Mr. Officer Donka, the allegations that were made were not made by Chief Swanson, correct? They were made by another officer against you?
Yeah,
And that was Officer Lucott?
yes,
And he reported you to his superior for making homophobic statements, correct?
that's what he alleged.
Okay. And Chief Swanson never treated you any differently despite being informed of these homophobic statements, did he? No?
Objection that she doesn't know what, he wouldn't know what Chief Swanson was or wasn't informed about.
Well, Chief Swanson will testify that he was informed about them.
Could we have a little foundation, though?
That Chief Swanson is being accused of treating people differently, and I want to establish that even after having this, this knowledge about homophobic statements, that they continue to work together.
I just didn't hear it as to the witness, as to what the witness's knowledge was, and I think you need to lay the foundation
I
as to that
said,
before you get to the ultimate
to
question.
your knowledge, well, actually, let me rephrase that. In your experience, Chief Swanson never treated you differently as a result of those allegations, correct?
Correct.
Okay. You said you worked under several chiefs. You actually applied to be chief on occasion, correct, at the Wethersfield Police Department,
Yes,
and you were rejected?
Objection, what does this have anything to do with anything we're here for?
Well,
Counsel?
his qualifications to judge what is appropriate for a chief.
And the question is, were you rejected from?
Wethersfield Police Department as their police chief.
It is a little bit far afield. As, the question is not about his qualifications. It's really just about his reporting of it. So I think we can move on from this.
Okay. You gave us some example of Chief Swanson that you said occurred 4 to 5 months ago when he went to see someone in the front office without his full uniform.
correct.
Are you aware that Chief Swanson actually hasn't been in the office for the last 5 months?
I understand that. Maybe I got my dates off a little bit, but I was there when it happened.
Okay.
And he did go out and talk to somebody in public about a uniform.
And when you see Chief Swanson coming and going, you don't have any idea, not in full uniform, you don't have any idea if he was coming from physical therapy due to the injury related to his shooting, correct?
No idea.
Okay. You've never told Chief Swanson that you had these very strong opinions about being offended seeing him in uniform, not in full uniform, did you?
Not my place.
Okay. And on that occasion, when you say you saw Chief Swanson going out to speak to the public in less than full uniform, there would be a video of that, right? In the police station?
I believe so. I believe there is recordings in the lobby.
You've never asked for any video of that occasion?
Why would I?
Okay. And you said that on the 1 day a week that you're on duty, you're concerned that there are times when you don't know where Chief Swanson is?
Correct.
And that's not your responsibility to know, though, is it?
Well, it is when it's my back out on the road and I've something goes down and I need help, it is my responsibility to know I'm gonna have somebody show up.
But there are other officers, correct? Like the
No.
sergeant?
Not always. A lot of times it was just me.
But the sergeant is also in charge of delegating responsibilities, correct? Sergeant O'Keefe?
I would guess so, but there's times where he's not working and it would be me.
And this whole incident you were talking about the officer that did not have a mass license, you were trying to convince Chief Swanson that this was breaking the law, correct?
Did not have a Vermont license.
A Vermont license, he had a mass license, and you
Right.
were trying to convince Chief Swanson he was breaking the law, right?
Which it is, once you take up residency.
And are you aware that that officer is still under the current sergeant driving with his mass plates?
He's got his mass license.
Excuse me,
No, excuse me, he doesn't have his mass, he actually has his Vermont license now.
Okay, but he still has mass plates on his car,
His car is registered in his sister's name.
okay? And that's something you've investigated
No, I didn't investigate, I just asked him about it.
in order to prepare for your testimony today?
No?
And you were talking about that you're going to retire if Chief comes back?
Yes.
And you've talked about retiring long before this, correct?
Every day's a Friday.
And you do talk about that regularly, and,
I can leave at any time.
okay. And you did work with Chief Swanson for 15 months as chief without retiring?
Yes.
Okay. And you've never, I think we've established, you never brought any of these complaints to Chief Swanson's attention that you brought up today?
Not my place.
Okay. Do you know when the officer got his Vermont license that we were talking about?
I believe it was right before Christmas.
This year? Oh, so he continued working in that same capacity under Sergeant O'Keefe for at least a couple months?
Yes.
Okay. And you're aware that nothing ever came of this allegation that you made against Chief Swanson about the license issue?
Objection to form. There's no allegation against Chief Swanson.
There was no finding of misconduct against Chief Swanson arising out of that allegation. You're aware of that, right?
Not that I know of.
Okay, thank you. No further questions.
go ahead.
I just want to get some clarification of a comment that you made twice in response to the attorney when she asked you why you hadn't brought up concerns to anybody else, and you said, "Not my place." Can you extrapolate on that a little
Well,
bit?
in police work, we have basically a, quasi-military type of atmosphere, and it's not the underling's job to question the person at top.
Can I do redirect on that?
Yeah,
recross.
it would be recross,
Yes.
but I think what I would do, I was thinking you were done with your cross, it would be Attorney
Okay.
Fletcher's opportunity
Sorry,
to
did you
redirect,
have-
and you will have an opportunity for recross. If desired.
Officer Donka, is the testimony you gave today unaffected by anything Attorney Frass discussed in terms of alleging supposed bias on your part?
Could you read?
Yeah. Is your testimony today based on bias against anybody?
No, not at all.
Thank you.
Officer Donka, when you said it wasn't your place to criticize Chief Swanson, correct?
Correct.
But it's your place today to do that?
I was asked to come here.
And if you thought that there was something going on that was a misconduct or egregious behavior, you would certainly report it to the chief supervisor, correct?
If it was something that egregious, yes.
Thank you. No further questions.
Okay. Officer Donka, thank you, you're excused. Unless, are there further questions? Officer Donka, I apologize, I should not have
Sorry.
excused you.
I just wanted to get one more.
Sure,
Is that okay, Brian?
Yes, absolutely.
Just your last word there was egregious. What, can you give a better, what in your mind is egregious? Just trying to get a better sense.
I mean, if he came in and I could smell alcohol on his breath, or committed some sort of crime that I knew about, that would be egregious.
Okay, any other board questions? Counselor, you set?
All set.
Thank you. This time you're good, thank you. Officer Donka. Attorney Clash?
Yeah, I need to find our next witness, is Corporal Murphy.
Oh, they have more papers. Please, yeah. What's in the box?
I haven't looked at, it's the transcript, or
Yeah.
I haven't looked at it to see how quite how it's organized, but I assume it's just,
Exhibits?
yeah, so that would be one.
Okay.
Then, that would have taken a couple days,
Yeah,
so.
understood.
And then, there's a third one if somebody still doesn't have one.
That's
Do you need one?
We'll
Make it take it.
Thank you. There is Seton on the bound version, so we'll make a copy of that later. Yeah. Good afternoon.
Good afternoon.
Counsel, you want to just move your witness in and then we'll...
Yes,
Be sworn in.
we call Kirsten Murphy.
Okay. Are you Officer Murphy?
Corporal.
Corporal. Okay, thank you, Corporal. Could I ask you to raise your right hand, please? And affirm if you agree. Do you solemnly swear that the testimony that you are about to give will be the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth?
I do.
Thank you.
Okay, thank you. Would you give us your name again, please?
Corporal Kirsten Murphy.
Okay. Good afternoon, Corporal Murphy. My name's John Klesch. I'm representing the case of the municipal manager here in this proceeding today. Would you tell the trustees, please, whether you are an employee of the Woodstock Police Department and what position you have, if so?
Yes, I'm employed by Woodstock Police Department. I've been here for 2 years, and I'm the corporal.
Okay. And you're here at this proceeding on the basis of being requested to be here by the municipal manager, Mr. Duffy?
That's correct.
Okay. How long have you worked for Woodstock PD?
A little over 2 years.
2 years. And how long have you been a corporal?
May of 2023, so almost 2 years.
Okay. And before that, what were you doing for work?
I was a patrol officer here briefly, and then I worked with Windsor County Police Department prior, and I started in 2013 with Rutland City Police Department.
Okay. So all told, you've been a sworn officer roughly how many years?
Going on 12 at this time.
Thank you. And give us a really brief description of like what are your job duties with Woodstock PD?
Patrolling the village, handling complaints, being a member of the community, speaking with them, helping them out on a daily basis.
Okay. Do you have any supervisory function now that you're a corporal?
Yes. Just making sure that from the top down, that the other patrol officers are doing what they're being asked.
Okay. And is Chief Swanson the person who promoted you from patrol to corporal?
No, Chief Blish did.
All right. Now, do you have a regular schedule at work?
Yes.
Tell us about it.
Wednesday and Thursday, I'm the PM shift from 2 PM to 10 PM. On Fridays, I'm the town officer, so it's 8 hours within the town, within a 24-hour period. And Saturday and Sunday, I'm the day shift from 6 AM to 2 PM.
That's your current schedule?
Correct.
Okay. Over the time Chief Swanson has served as chief, were you working more of a conventional day schedule at any of those times, or have you always had this kind of, nights and weekends focused schedule?
When Chief Swanson became chief in July, I was actually on light duty because I was pregnant. So I had a Monday through Friday, 8 to 4, 8 to 4:30, office duties.
Okay. And were you on that light duty from July at least through October 20, I'm sorry, I have that wrong. Sorry. So that was July of 2023, you were on light duty.
Correct.
Okay. Roughly how many months did you stay in that type of a schedule where you were working weekdays?
Till December 29th when I went out on maternity.
Okay. Okay. So something like 5 to 6 months?
Correct.
Okay. And during that time, was your schedule, what did you say the hours were?
While I was on light duty,
Yeah.
they were Monday through Friday, 8 to 4, like a day shift, a modified day shift.
Okay. And you were normally like in the actual department building at that time?
Yes, I was doing a lot of the lobby complaints, or stuff that required paperwork.
Okay. When you were there during that stretch of time, did you have a chance to sort of see the extent to which Chief Swanson came and went from the department?
Yes.
Okay. And can you describe what that looked like to you from your perspective?
Relaxed. Sorry. He wasn't always there the full 8 hours during the day. Kind of came and went when he wanted, not in uniform all the time.
Okay. And did it affect you on any sort of day-to-day basis to know or not know where he was during those day shift hours?
On some level, yes. It was the expectation that for us, when we're on duty, that we're in the building or on patrol in uniform. So to have a supervisor not do those things, yes.
And so how does that affect somebody like in your role? What did that mean to you?
It felt like I should be able to do those same things.
Now, you also worked for some time under Chief Blish,
Correct.
and did you, during that time, have a chance to get a sense of what his kind of habits were around shifts and working in the department?
He was usually in the department by 5:45 in the morning for a 6 a.m. day shift.
And was that like came and went, inconsistent, or was it something different? Tell us about that.
He was there in the office a lot of the time, but he was dressed in uniform with his duty belt, ready to go.
Okay. And were there any times Chief Blish was out of the office?
Yes, but it was town hall or on patrol.
Okay. Do you, is when you talk about Chief Swanson not being there during day shift, do you know, is he patrolling or?
One would assume that, but I don't know.
Okay. So I understand that while Chief Swanson's been on administrative leave, Sergeant O'Keefe's been serving as acting chief.
Yes, that's correct.
Okay. And can you say what, if anything, is different in terms of the way you see that role being filled now versus when Chief Swanson is, working as chief?
Things are getting handled. He's there, consistent, with the employees on patrol, answering our questions, being there for us.
And is what you just described different from what you've experienced with Chief Swanson?
On some levels, yes.
Okay, can you be a little more specific?
Under Chief Swanson, it seemed very unorganized and chaotic a little bit.
Is scheduling any area where you've seen a difference?
Can you,
Yeah, like in terms of the way schedules are set and comprised, when Chief Swanson was setting schedules versus now Sergeant O'Keefe setting schedules?
the shifts seem to be covered if somebody's out versus not there? Is that,
Well, so what does that mean? Like, are you saying that when Chief Swanson is doing scheduling, that sometimes there'd be like open slots that you had to deal with, or what do you mean?
there were times that stuff was left uncovered.
Okay. And what does that do to operations?
Makes you a little bit stressed and try and figure out what needs to be covered and by who.
Okay. I think you also said something about, with Sergeant O'Keefe serving as chief now, that things are taken care of or things are getting done, something like that. And,
That's correct.
okay, what are some examples of like the difference you've seen?
When there's an issue, it gets taken care of.
Can you tell us like one issue, for instance?
The issue with the cars are being handled.
So there was something going on with the cars that wasn't being taken care of in as quick a fashion as you thought when Chief Swanson was there working?
Correct.
Okay. Now, have you also seen or anything having to do with the extent to which Chief Swanson holds officers accountable for their conduct?
Can you repeat the question?
Yeah. So I asked you about some of the things you've observed, right, working in the department with Chief Swanson working as chief, right?
Yes.
And one of the things I want to ask you about is, have you seen anything that speaks to you about the extent to which Chief Swanson holds officers accountable?
Yes.
All right. And can you tell us what it is that you've observed in that area?
There were a couple occasions where I brought to his attention what I felt would be disciplinary action taken against another officer. And once it was brought to his attention, it felt like it just stopped there.
Okay. And we don't need to go too deep into details about what it was that you thought may have been grounds for discipline for somebody, but can you give us a little more information about that so we have a better understanding of the context? Basically, what did you think was an issue that called for discipline that you maybe know or something about whether Chief Swanson handled it?
There was a incident with an officer at a parade, and the conduct in which he interacted with the community was not appropriate, and it was brought to Chief Swanson's attention. And there was video of it, and at that point, I didn't feel that it went any further.
Okay. So you were there at the parade when something happened?
I was at the parade, I was not at that location with the officer. It was brought to my attention, and I had to find the video.
Okay. Was it a complaint from the public?
Yes,
Okay. And it had to do with an officer using profanity on a member of the public?
correct.
Okay. And you reviewed the video,
Yes,
and you brought the issue to Chief Swanson's attention?
yes.
Okay. And what is it about the way Chief Swanson, responded to your bringing it to his attention that you think may have any significance here?
There was conversation about having a sit-down with that officer, and I thought that because I was a supervisor at the time, that we would both be having a conversation with that officer.
Okay, and did Chief Swanson arrange for you, he and that officer, to have a conversation?
No.
Okay. Have you also reported to Chief Swanson concern over officers being out of uniform on duty?
Yes.
Okay, what do you remember about that subject?
There was another officer that brought to my attention that an officer sat out of uniform for the last couple hours of his shift.
And what does it have to do with Chief Swanson?
It was brought to his attention, and I don't know what happened.
Who brought it to his attention?
I did.
Okay, and there was no follow-up from him saying that he, dealt with the situation?
Not to my knowledge, no.
Okay. Corporal Murphy, on that desk in front of you is a 3-ring binder, and those are some exhibits. I'm going to ask you to take a look at one of the exhibits. It's number 29. 29. Okay. So for the record, I'm just going to shorthand this to say Exhibit 29 is actually 2 separate emails printouts. One is a September 7, 2024. The second page is an October 31, 2023. So first of all, Corporal, the first page, September 7, 2024, the second paragraph, is that where you brought to Chief Swanson's attention what you just talked about with an officer being out of uniform for the last couple hours of their shift?
That's correct.
Okay. And then let's flip the page, if we could, to the second item in Exhibit 29. There's the email from Chief Swanson to you, October 31. Well, let me back up. The email on the bottom of the page, that's an email from you to Chief, right?
Correct.
And the first few sentences talk about the officer yelling profanities at an operator, right?
Yes.
Okay. And Chief Swanson's reply to you is in the email above?
Yes.
Okay. And the last thing it says is, "We will sit down with him," right?
Yes.
Or "We will sit him down." I misread it. "We will
Yes.
sit him down." And again, just making sure I understand, this is the parade issue, is you did not get a meeting between you, the officer, and Chief Swanson?
Correct.
Okay. Now, is there, if you can read it over, take a second there, and the rest of that October 31 email from you, is there you bringing to Chief's attention another incident involving that same officer?
Yes.
Okay. And again, we don't need to get too deep into it, but what was the nature of what you brought to the Chief's attention?
That officer had drove excessive to try and catch up to a vehicle that he witnessed speeding, and was driving in an unsafe manner.
Okay. Is that sort of thing a violation of practices or policies of the department,
I mean, we do have a pursuit policy, yes.
which says no high-speed pursuits, right?
Don't drive in a reckless manner, essentially.
Okay. And you felt in this case the driving did probably violate that policy?
When watching the video, yes.
Okay. And so my question is, what, if anything, came of you bringing that subject to Chief Swanson to the best of your knowledge?
Nothing to my knowledge.
It's certainly another case where you were not involved in any sort of a meeting or training or discipline with the involved officer.
No.
Okay. And were you, this is again at a time when you're corporal, so you are the immediate supervisor of these folks, is that right?
Correct.
And I don't think we have any email about it, but was there yet another driving incident involving the same officer that you brought concerns to Chief Swanson about?
Yes,
That had to do with a pursuit that went to St. Johnsbury or something?
correct.
And putting aside whether that pursuit did or didn't violate any sort of rules or policies, it's another one that you brought to Chief Swanson's attention.
Yes.
Okay. What, if anything, came of you bringing it to his attention? Do you know?
Nothing that I know of.
Okay. And do you recall anything about Chief Swanson responding to you about that situation? Like, what did he, if anything, did he say, he would or wouldn't consider looking into on that one?
I don't recall.
So, trying to get a sense of how potentially significant something is, with that other pursuit, with that other officer, maybe you give a little detail about it, but like, was that a significant event or not really, in your view?
Which,
Yeah, the one where the St. Johnsbury, like, what's the significance of what the officer did there in your view?
he left the town unmanned.
Without calling it in?
Correct.
And that's the main thing that was concerned to you?
Correct. I was not notified at all.
Okay. And that's what you felt should be presented to the chief?
Yes.
Now, has Chief Swanson, well, let's back up. First of all, explain to us, the trustees, briefly what it means when somebody is made officer in charge by a chief.
So as officer in charge, you're essentially the supervisor, so if anything happens, you're the one that's supposed to be notified of any incident that's going on.
Okay. And why, under what circumstances does a chief assign somebody officer in charge?
If he's going to be out of the area.
Okay. Is it the kind of thing where, like, even if you're off duty, if you're officer in charge and there's some serious situation, you're going to expect to get called in?
That's correct.
All right. Has there been occasion when you were made officer in charge and nobody had told you that you had been made officer in charge by Chief Swanson?
Yes.
Go ahead and tell us about that.
There were incidences where you just find out that you were officer in charge either by dispatch or coming into dispatch and finding your number on the written on the board that you were officer in charge.
Okay. And let me kind of ask like a flip question here and say, like, well, so what? How, is there something that should be done differently before someone is made officer in charge?
If you're officer in charge, you're supposed to be within a reasonable responding distance to the police department. So you can't really make plans.
Okay. Did you ever work as officer in charge under Chief Bush?
Not that I recall.
Okay. Do you know whether he scheduled officer in charge in advance?
I don't know the answer to that.
Okay. I want to turn you back to Exhibit 29. First paragraph, is this you, bringing to Chief's attention your concern about being officer in charge without having anyone told you about it?
That's correct.
Okay. And, okay. Oh, and by the way, officer in charge, your understanding is supposed to be able to respond to a scene if there's something calling for that?
That's my understanding, yes.
Okay. And in this one example that we see here in Exhibit 29, where you were made officer in charge, where you say in the future, it would be nice to know if I'm OIC ahead of time and I will make arrangements. Were you on light duty at that time?
Not in 2024, no.
Okay, that's a good point, thank you. Have you been made officer in charge at times when you were on light duty?
Yes, I was OIC, though, the time that the St. Johnsbury pursuit happened.
Okay. And did you know you were OIC for that one?
I
Ahead of-
believe so. I don't recall.
Okay. All right. Corporal Murphy, we're almost done here. I just want to, with me, I am going to show you Exhibit 7. You seen that before today?
I have.
Okay. Is Exhibit 7 a notice of a no confidence vote that was presented by the NEPBA union to whom it may concern?
It is.
Okay. And are you a member of the union?
Yes.
Okay. And I want to ask you, having seen this before today, are you in agreement with the concerns that are stated in the document?
Yes.
Okay. Have you thought about your future at Woodstock Police Department in the event Chief Swanson were to return to active duty as chief?
Yes.
And are you willing to tell the trustees what you've thought about on that? Are you okay telling us what you think about that?
I will be looking elsewhere
And why is that?
because the trust in a supervisor is gone.
Now, I understand that I want to ask you, is coming here to do this today, being asked to come in and testify and talk about these things, is it difficult for you?
A little bit.
Okay. I don't have any other questions for you. Well, let me check, please, with these. I don't have any other questions for you right now. Corporal Murphy, I do want to move the admission of Exhibit 29.
Any objection, counsel?
No.
Exhibit 29 is admitted, so just bear with me so I can take a note for a second. Attorney Frost?
Oh, am I all set?
Yeah.
Okay. Good afternoon, Corporal Murphy.
Good afternoon.
You were working with Chief Swanson for 15 months when he was chief?
Yes.
Okay. And during those 15 months, you did not indicate that you were going to be looking for another job, correct?
That's correct.
And you never brought any official complaints, written complaints to anyone's attention, right?
Written?
Yeah.
No.
Okay. And you knew that if there were anything significantly that Chief Swanson was doing that was misconduct or severely affecting the department, that you should go to a supervisor, right?
That's correct.
Okay. And you were not aware of what was going on behind the scenes when you were made corporal by Chief Blish. You don't know about whether Chief Swanson was rooting for you or not, right?
No.
Okay. Before you spoke to Mr. Burgess in this investigation, you spoke to Mr. Duffy, correct?
Yes,
And you were given the opportunity to make any complaints that you might have about Chief Swanson, correct?
yes,
Okay. And so when you were working for 15 months with Chief Swanson, you did not feel like you needed to be looking elsewhere, but now you do.
yes.
And that opinion came in the last few months?
It's been the last 6 months.
Okay, since he's been on leave.
Correct.
That is when you came to this decision?
That's correct.
Okay. Were you under the impression that Chief Swanson had done something wrong when he was placed on administrative leave?
Under impression? Can you
Yeah,
rephrase?
did you have the feeling or impression that Chief Swanson had done something wrong, and that's why he was placed on administrative leave?
No, it was my understanding that that was part of the process of the investigation.
Did you come to the belief at some point in the last few months that he had done something wrong?
Can you rephrase the question?
Yeah, have you come to the decision in the last few months that somehow Chief Swanson did something wrong?
No, it's the no confidence letter.
And that no confidence letter was based only, for you, was based only on what you've told us today, right?
Correct.
And those are all things that were present for 15 months.
Not necessarily.
Well, they didn't occur in the last few months, did they? When he was been out?
No.
So they had to occur before
Correct.
that? Okay. And,
To be clear, you just said the last 15 months when he was out, you mean the
5
last-
months, right. They did not occur in the last 5 months, these complaints that you have.
No.
Okay. And so when you were working with him for 15 months, you had some issues, disagreements about it, how he handled discipline issues regarding the officers ranking below you. That was really your major complaint, right?
Yes.
Okay. And you believe that one of the officers should have received more discipline from Chief Swanson than just being spoken to or told not to do it again, right?
Yes.
And you don't actually know what Chief Swanson said to this officer that you were concerned about, correct?
Correct.
Okay. You don't know how Chief Swanson may have handled it outside of your presence,
No, because I was not made aware.
and that's what you're upset about, that you were not part of that process once you brought it to his attention.
Objection. I think the corporal said she was upset.
Well, aren't you upset that Chief Swanson did not include you in that process?
I was under the impression that because I was the supervisor that made the initial report, that I would also be involved in the conversation.
And when you weren't involved, didn't that make you upset?
Same objection.
You can answer.
I mean, I guess.
Okay.
We
wouldn't be here if you weren't upset about it, right?
I mean, if you're the one making the complaint and you're also a supervisor, and then the person that you made the complaint to doesn't include you in the initial complaint, I felt like that was part of the process.
And did that hurt your feelings that you were not brought in to that situation to talk about it?
I'm not sure how
Objection.
that's relevant.
Pardon me?
I'm not sure how her feelings are relevant.
Well, they're very
I think
relevant.
the issue is, does she believe that there was a violation of policy or not? And I don't think her feelings are part of the proceedings.
Well, you haven't pointed to any policy, Officer Murphy, did you, that says that Chief Swanson had to include you in that discipline?
No,
So this is based on your feelings of upset?
or my opinion.
Okay. You don't have any training in determining what the proper way to handle discipline is as a chief, right?
No,
Okay. When you were working on light duty, did you come to the office sometimes in plain clothes?
that's the point of being on light duty.
So you came to the office and you were wearing jeans sometimes in the office?
Not jeans, but dress casual.
Okay. And did you interact with the public at times wearing those clothes?
Yes, per the chief.
Okay. And this situation where you were upset about your scheduling, that was when you found out that you were an officer on duty, that was because you don't like to check you don't have your work email at home, right? You want somebody to call you and tell you instead of checking your email?
I don't have my work email associated with my personal.
And that's why you weren't aware that there was a scheduling thing, because you didn't have access to your work email and you didn't check it.
I don't have access to my work email on my personal phone, no.
And so your issue with Chief Swanson is he didn't call you directly to tell you instead of...
There was no notification, no.
You went through, I assume, you went through all of your emails and you came up with 2 examples that are listed in exhibits, but in order to find those, you went through your emails for 15 months, correct?
I didn't pull these emails,
Oh, do you know who did?
no.
So somebody pulled the emails for you and brought them to your attention?
I was made aware before this, for today.
So somebody brought those emails to your attention and said, we want you to testify about this?
Hold on. I'm not going to tolerate sneering or faces from the audience. And if it continues, you will be required to leave. Last notice. Continue, counsel.
Yes. Yes.
It's very disrespectful of our witnesses and of our board. Are we
Sir,
clear?
I understand, but I'm an officer of the court, and I respectfully disagree with your categorization
I don't
of
care.
conduct.
I do not care.
Fine.
Stop. Just stop.
So my question involves the emails that are now in exhibit. And you've told me that you were not the one that went through your emails or found them. Someone found them, brought them to you, and asked you to testify about them. Is that fair enough?
Yes,
Okay. And was that person Mr. Duffy?
no,
Okay. Someone on his behalf?
correct.
Okay. And all the things, I think we've covered this, but everything you said in the union vote was based on things that you told us today.
Correct.
Thank you. I have no further questions.
Attorney Clush?
Just one quick question, Corporal Murphy. The emails that we looked at in the exhibits are obviously based on the Town of Woodstock email system, correct? It's nobody's personal email that we've
Correct.
talked about today?
Correct.
Okay. I don't have any further questions. Thank you.
No questions.
Any board members have any questions for this witness?
I have one question.
Yeah.
Just to follow up, similar question I've asked the previous witness. You had concerns in the past, I when they brought up earlier, about Chief Swanson.
I mean, they were,
But to someone else. It sounds like you.
Correct.
Took them to him.
yes,
But you didn't feel, for some reason, that you wanted to take them to anyone else.
correct.
You're excused. Thank you, Officer Murphy. Attorney Clush?
All right, what time is the break, did you say?
We're at 2:14, and I was planning to go till 2:40. So we're-
Okay, so we would look
26.
for Sergeant O'Keefe at this time.
Okay. Good afternoon, sir. I'm going to ask you to raise your right hand if you don't mind, but you're welcome to open your water first. That's fine. Do you solemnly swear that the testimony you are about to give in this proceeding will be the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth?
Yes.
Thank you. You may proceed.
Good afternoon, sir. Would you give us your name again, please?
Yes. Name is Christopher O'Keefe.
Okay. And is it Sergeant O'Keefe in terms of your role at Woodstock PD?
Yes.
Okay, thank you. And you're here in this proceeding at the request of the municipal manager, Mr. Duffy?
Yes.
Okay. So you are a sergeant at Woodstock PD. How long have you worked there?
I've worked there for about a year and a half since end of November of '23.
All right. And we're not going to go too far down, but just real briefly, can you tell us your experience before that?
Yes, I started at the Hartford, Vermont Police Department in 2008, and I worked there till 2013. And then I worked for the Department of Motor Vehicles as an inspector from 2013 to 2023, and then started my employment with Woodstock as a sergeant.
Okay. And tell us a little bit about, I'm not talking about, well, let's get this off. So you are currently serving as acting chief, is that right?
Yes.
Okay. Let's talk about, and I'll ask this too, sorry. Were you assigned to be acting chief around the time that Chief Swanson went on leave in or around October of '24?
Yes.
Okay. Prior to that, prior to you being made acting chief, what were your duties and schedule like at the department?
Duties were typical sergeant duties, approve reports, regular patrol work like everybody else, all the other patrol folks, executing Chief Swanson's orders.
Okay. As a sergeant, you're a supervisor.
Yes.
Okay, but you also patrol and all that sort of thing?
Yes.
Okay. And would you, as a sergeant, are you the most senior person below the chief?
Yes, I am.
Okay. And when you arrived at Woodstock PD and began to observe what things were like there, what were your observations?
A little rough. You know, the equipment was good. We were getting new cars coming in, new computers. Uniforms were good. Equipment-wise, it was okay. But as far as the atmosphere in the PD, it was it seemed like a frat house.
And what are some examples of what leads you to describe it that way?
Yes, people with their feet on the desk, not out patrolling. There was a lot of downtime, not working out on the street. It just it seemed like more of a college dorm atmosphere than a patrol room.
And I think I may have asked you, and sorry, I lost the thread here. Before you were acting chief, did you have a regular schedule?
Yes, I did.
Tell us what it was, please.
It was usually Monday through Friday, day shifts, covering in vacancies on the weekends, and typical call-outs at night, being on call schedule, working in a Saturday here and there.
Okay. And that Monday, Friday day schedule, what kind of hours is that?
Usually, most of the time was from 6 to 2, 6 a.m. to 2 p.m.
Okay. And when you were working at the department on that day schedule as sergeant, did you have knowledge, familiarity with the extent to which Chief Swanson was or was not present around the department?
Yes, I came on, and when I had started, some of the folks made comments about Chief Swanson's comings and goings, or not being present frequently. At first, I sort of just took it with a grain of salt, and I was new, and I sort of check things out. And then it became apparent that he really wasn't there that much.
And you're talking about you started to see that for yourself?
I did.
And so that's kind of a broad statement. Can you put some more details around it? Like, what is it that you were seeing or not seeing that made you say, well, he wasn't around that much?
It was sometimes in at 8, sometimes in at 10, sometimes in at 11. It just seemed to vary. I didn't really know.
Okay. And so did the level of what you saw around that subject from when you arrived in November 23 for roughly the year until then Chief was on leave, did that stay kind of the same? Did that seem to get more substantial or improve or what?
It seemed fairly consistent. It was just some of the folks in the squad room would joke, where's Joe? Some of it was, perception. But it was tough to say really. He just, it's like I said, it just wasn't, he was consistently in and out, but the times where he was in and out weren't consistent. So.
Okay. Now, have you also had experience of, personally had experience of Chief Swanson, leaving from the department during those days, like, regular weekdays, to go out on what you understood was personal business?
Yes.
Okay. Is one example of that involve an occasion where you had specialists from an outside agency visit to provide assistance?
Yes.
Okay. Can you describe what the issue was and just sort of replay that, how that went?
Yes. It was just prior to the school year. School, I believe, was about 2 weeks away from having their first day. We had a case where there was footage of a young man inside the elementary school. And there was footage of him, and it wasn't discernible whether he was taking videos or taking pictures inside the school. But there was a partial face, body. It was some in color, some in black and white. And I was concerned that, could be a bad actor. Is it just a kid that made a poor choice and he's taking pictures of himself to show his friends, or is it something more nefarious than that? Is it, going to be a school shooting type of incident? So out of precaution, I contacted the Vermont Intelligence Center, and they sent down 2 Homeland Security agents.
Okay. And did the agents in fact come to the department during weekday hours?
They did. I don't remember which particular day they came, but they came down from Burlington and to meet with us to come up with a plan and attempt to identify who the person was.
Okay. And this was your case,
Yes.
right? Not Chief Swanson's case?
Right.
But did Chief Swanson know that you had invited Homeland Security folks to come down and provide assistance?
Yes,
Okay. And they did come to the department?
they did.
And what unfolded then when they arrived?
They arrived, we met, Chief Swanson came and introduced himself and left. And the agents and I went through some of the evidence.
Okay. Did you know where Chief Swanson went that day?
I believe it was to watch his husband's court case.
Okay. Was that, to your knowledge, was that a case involving Woodstock PD?
To the best of my knowledge, it was not.
Okay. Did the Homeland Security folks say anything about the fact that Chief wasn't sticking around for that meeting?
I think they were a little miffed that he wasn't present.
Okay. And what was your reaction to his choice to leave to go out on personal business?
I didn't have one because we just had work to do.
Okay, so you didn't outwardly react or do anything? How did you feel about it?
I felt it was wrong.
Why?
I mean, we didn't really know what we had yet at that time. It felt serious enough to bring two agents down to assist us with it. I felt like it should have been maybe more of a all hands on deck situation.
Okay. Did you feel any sort of embarrassment or anything?
A little, yeah.
We'll take a look at one of the exhibits there in the exhibit book, Sergeant O'Keefe. So if you could turn to tab 37.
Okay.
It's the last one in the book, actually.
Okay.
Okay. And I just want to ask you, are those emails involving you and the Homeland Security agents in terms of asking for their assistance with this matter?
Yes, that is an email from me to the supervisor at the time of the Vermont Intelligence Center.
Okay. And I noticed, you said, just to clear up one little quick thing, you said Homeland Security, it looks like the email addresses are fbi.gov. Does that change your testimony?
No, it does not. These folks happen to be Border Patrol agents that were assigned to a task force under Homeland Security.
Okay. Now, prior to Chief Swanson going out on leave, had personnel in the department brought to you their concern over things like leadership, supervision, things of that nature? Just yes or no?
Yes.
Yeah, yes, okay. And my next question is, did you feel that what you were hearing from the personnel was sufficiently, significant that it's something that you determined to bring to Chief Swanson's attention?
Yes.
So were there occasions, again, before October 2024, when you did approach him to speak to about those subjects?
I did.
Okay. Was there more than one occasion?
Two that I can recall specifically.
Okay. And I don't know if you can remember what was said at each different one, but do you have sitting here a good memory of one of those conversations?
I do.
Okay. And can you play that back for the trustees the best of your recollection?
Yes. The day that Chief Swanson left to go watch the court case, the day that these agents came to assist us, most of the folks at the PD came to me and expressed their disappointment and said that they were upset over Chief Swanson not being present. So I went to Chief Swanson and I stated something to the effect of, hey, everyone's upset with you. I'm just passing on the message. And he said, who? I said, everybody. And he said, who's everybody? I said, dispatch, administration, the parking attendants, and patrol. And he pounded on his desk and said, fuck them, I don't care. Pardon me.
And what, if anything, did his reaction say to you in terms of your feelings about, Chief Swanson as leader of the department?
I just felt like that was the end of the conversation.
Any thoughts on whether that's what you're looking for in a chief?
No. But yeah, it's not what I would be looking for.
And, maybe it's just sort of already what you've described, but did you have a sense, again, up to before Chief left on leave, what was morale like among the staff and the sworn personnel?
So it was fairly low.
What do you base that on?
Just the banter, people would openly talk about it.
I mean, do people say hey, our morale is low, or how does that materialize?
No, I think most of it was people would just say that they were unhappy with the direction of the department.
Okay. You personally heard that from folks who you were, and those are folks you supervised?
Yes.
Okay. Did you ever try to do anything about it? You know, like, did you say, well, I'll try to handle your issues or anything like that?
I did the first, say, 6, 7 months. It was a lot of covering and, oh, it's okay, it'll be all right. And then it turned into, it just got to a point where it just didn't really seem like it was going to change.
Now, is one of the things that you have any observations about is how scheduling was handled by Chief Swanson?
Yes.
All right, tell us about that, please.
Chief Swanson handled all the scheduling duties until probably summer, the first summer I was employed there, June, July, maybe July. It was confusing, and what would happen is it would be posted and it wouldn't be complete, and there was probably heavy reliance on some of the part-time staff to come in and cover shifts, and sometimes the shifts weren't even filled and they wouldn't get filled, and we just kind of have to figure it out on the fly.
Okay, and just to really make us sure we understand, like, how does that affect operations and staff?
But it's confusing because people didn't know when and where they had to be, or, you know, if it's a small department, there's 6 of us on a good day. You know, when you have days off and schedules and time off, there's, you know, sometimes we only have 2, maybe 3 people at the most working on one particular day, so people didn't know if they had to stay late, if they had to come in early. It's confusing.
Did you sometimes approach Chief Swanson about the schedule and say, hey, I got concerns about what's been put up for the schedule?
I didn't really ask him about the schedule too much.
Okay. Did you ever have any experience with being made officer in charge without knowing it or about it being on short notice?
Yes.
You have any examples that come to mind?
There were 2 different specific examples I can think of that I was going to leave for the day, and usually when I leave, I always go check in with dispatch and say, hey, I'm off duty, good night, or whatever. And there's a spot for officer in charge on our board, and my unit number was on it, and I didn't know. So I called Chief Swanson, and I said, hey, my officer in charge is speaking. Oh, yeah, you are.
Okay.
That happened twice that I can think of.
Okay. Was there one occasion when you had travel plans that you didn't know you were officer in charge and you had to then cancel once you realized you were?
Yes.
Where were you supposed to go?
To my brother's house in Rhode Island.
You've been handling the chief duties since October 2024. How is officer in charge now communicated to folks?
I verbally tell the person who is officer in charge. I usually ask if they're comfortable doing it, and if it's a yes or no, and it's known ahead of time.
All right. Now, have you had occasion to be concerned about Chief Swanson's planning for events?
Yes.
Okay. And are there some examples you can tell us about that?
The Wausau Parade and Pride Day in particular were very loose. No ICS plan, Incident Command System plan, which is pretty custom in law enforcement. There's no strategic plan. We had people were aware of where they're supposed to be posted until probably 5 minutes ahead of before the event took place.
Mm-hmm. And I assume the trustees know what these events are like from living in the community, but are these, fairly high volume and a lot of folks come and kind of descend into the town all at once, or into the village, I should say?
Yes.
Okay. And why would an ICS plan, not, it may be obvious to you, but why would an ICS plan be something appropriate in those kinds of scenarios?
It's a fallback plan if it's in case something goes wrong. It's who to call for assistance, who to call for backup, where your resources are, who's in charge of this item over here or whatnot. It's just a series of fallback plans in case things go a certain direction.
And normally you're saying you'd look to a chief to have that in place ahead of a significant event.
Yes.
When you first got to Woodstock PD, did you make any observations about the training level of the junior officers that were there in the department?
Yes.
And can you tell us what you ascertained?
It was uncomfortable. We had people, two folks in particular who hadn't had any police academy training, that they're level 2 certified, which basically means you can go to school for 2 weeks and be a cop. You're not full-time certified, but you are allowed to work as a police officer. And we had two folks in particular working regular shifts with minimal to no supervision, working in that capacity.
Okay. And so to be more specific, like compared to what you would expect for officers in the department when you arrived, what was the level of training? Was it adequate? Was there concern on your part?
Can you repeat that question?
Yeah, did you have concern over the adequacy of the level of training that had been supplied to these people that you found to be the sort of status quo when you first arrived?
I would have liked to have seen them have more training.
And did you ever hear from them about whether they desired more training?
Yes.
And did you ever talk to Chief Swanson about it?
We talked about it here and there.
Okay. And to your knowledge, did he ever increase training for people based on concerns?
One of the folks, it was discussed to go to the full-time police academy.
Okay. Did that happen before Chief went?
Not yet, no.
Okay. Now, I understand Chief Swanson is certified as a use of force trainer.
Correct.
Okay. And have you been participating in a use of force training that he was providing?
Yes.
Okay. Do you have any recollection of any concerns that occurred to you during that training?
Yes.
Okay. Will you tell us about it, please?
There was an instance where I needed a handful more hours. I don't remember the exact specific amount. It was maybe 2, 3, 4 hours. We completed training for maybe an hour, and he was just going to let me leave.
And let me ask kind of a dumb question. So what? What does that mean?
The training hours are important. The academy requires 30 hours a year per officer, and there's a certain amount of hours that are mandatory, and the use of force hours fall under that.
Okay. Well, was the idea that you would just finish your hours later and then you'd get signed
No,
off
I
on?
was under the impression that was it.
Okay. So sign off without you having actually completed the requisite hours.
Correct.
We've heard testimony today, so I don't think we need to go in too great a detail about concern about Chief Swanson's lack of uniform around the department. Is that something you've observed?
Yes.
And just real quickly, what are the kind of things you've observed?
Just uniform presentation, and sometimes not being in uniform.
Okay. Anything about non-uniform clothing, like baseball hats or anything like that?
Yes. When I first started, there was Chief Swanson and a handful of folks in patrol wore baseball caps. We weren't wearing department-issued hats or caps. They were just a hat you'd get at a baseball hat store.
Okay. And why is things like what you described in terms of like a fraternity atmosphere or not being in uniform, like why does that sort of stuff have any significance?
It's just unprofessional. I don't think anyone wants to call 911 and have someone to show up in a baseball hat and uniform. It just doesn't look appropriate.
Council, it's 2:40. I wanted to break at 2:40. How much longer is your direct?
Probably at least another 10 minutes.
Okay, let's take a break now then, and we'll come back in 15 minutes at 2:55. Thank you.